Welcome everyone to yet another topic on JUnit tutorial. Now in this one we are going to talk about what exactly is the JUnit tool all about and how we can do various kind of test implementations with the help of JUnit. So let's talk about the agenda which we are going to cover here. Now in this one specifically we are going to talk about like what exactly is JUnit, what is this particular framework all about. Then we are going to talk about JUnit installation, how we can do the installation of JUnit and what are the different steps we can get involved on that. And then we are going to talk about like the features of JUnit, what are the different typical features of JUnit are all about. Then JUnit annotations we're going to talk about, and then JUnit in Java and the actual implementations, some tutorials or some demos on how to implement JUnit with Eclipse. So these are some of the main topics which we are going to cover all together over here as such. Now let's talk about what exactly is the JUnit tool all about, like what are the different things we can implement with the help of this tool here. So JUnit is basically a kind of unit testing framework which is there for the Java. So it's kind of a default offering for the Java programming language that we can use the JUnit for the unit testing framework for performing the unit testing. Now the main benefit of the JUnit is like it's using the same syntax like a Java programming language. So it makes it very easy for a Java developer to write and execute the test cases. So most of the times when the developers are going to work on the Java programming languages, so they prefer that JUnit as a default unit testing framework for them, because they get the language advantage, they get the easily integrations in the Eclipse. So those benefits helps the developers to decide JUnit specifically for writing the test cases and running the test cases there. Now whenever these test cases are actually being executed, whenever you add up a new piece of source code, so all the unit test cases will be again executed there every time when you run a new build. So all the unit test cases gets executed, but you also need to take care that if you are adding up a new functionalities, you also have to add the corresponding test cases to that. So increasing more and more code will be done by the developers, but at the same time you have to sync or you have to keep your test cases up to date also. And as a part of every build, each and every test cases will be re-executed every time you're doing the build 5 times, 6 times a day. Every time the all unit test cases will be executed over there and the response will be given back. Right, now let's talk about what exactly is a unit testing. Now unit testing refers to the testing of the small modules or the small piece of chunks or the codes here. Now it's basically used to have the early identification of the defects and the bugs, because you cannot simply rely on the QA team to perform the testing and then provide the feedback. Whereas on the with the help of this unit testing framework, we can immediately get the feedback right away. Once we are running the test cases, immediately we will be able to know like these are the different test cases which we have got over here. Now the developers don't even have to spend more time on fixing the bugs and issues, because these test cases will help them with the easy and the fast feedback. So according to that, they can fix the bugs and they can take the decision whether the source code is working fine as expected or there is any kind of issues as such present with this one. So unit test casing is something which is very important from the developer's perspective also, because it helps the developers to understand that whether they have written a successful code or if there is any kind of scope of issues or bugs over here. Also, the successful unit test cases increases the overall confidence of the developers, because it increases the overall performance and the quality of the product also. So by having the successful executions of the unit test cases, developers can understand that yes, the source code is working fine as expected and there is no scope of bugs or any issues as such with this source code here. So that's the main benefit which we get with unit testing, that with this fast feedback channel, we will be able to take the decisions whether the source code is ready for the production environment deployment or not. So that's a main benefit which we get with the unit testing here. Now of course this can be done in two ways, manual testing and automated testing. Now, in case of manual testing, you have to do this thing manually within a manual tester or a manual testing approach. And in this one, you will not be depending on any kind of automated tool which can be scheduled or which can be executed in non-interactive manner. On the other hand, automated test cases is something which is used to be executed using the tool, and it is something which is being done so that you will be able to get the complete automation. There is no manual efforts which is required as such. You are going to have like complete deployment and automations being done as such in this case. So automated testing is something in which you will be giving more focus on the automated automation tools. You may be having one or a couple of tools which using which you can write the automated test cases and you can perform the complete automation. In case of manual testing, it's quite less reliable because you are dependent on the a particular tester which can perform the testing according to his efforts, and it's quite time consuming also because you can only run the test cases for probably 8 to 9 hours per a day. Whereas on the other hand, the automated test case is something which is quite reliable because it does not depends on a human requirement, so it can be done like 24/7, so anytime you can run those test cases, and that's the reason why these test cases are quite faster as compared to any other manual testing approach here. So JUnit test cases and the automated test cases really helps the developers and the QA professionals to test the source code much faster as compared to the manual testing. Now let's talk about the JUnit installation. Now, as part of the installation of JUnit, you don't require to install any exe file or any kind of program there. There are a couple of jar files which is required, which needs to be there into the class path, so that every time when you write some JUnit test cases, you should be able to refer those jar files, because without having those jar files into your class path of your project, you will not be able to run the JUnit test cases. So that's the only dependency you require. If you are running a Maven build, then these dependencies will be added up into the pom.xml file. If you are referring or doing the build from the Eclipse or doing the development from the Eclipse, then you have to put up these jar files into the class path of the project so that these jar files can be loaded up and the JUnit can be referred over here. So the installation is pretty straightforward, but let's see like what are the different steps we need to follow. Now, as a prerequisite of understanding the demo about JUnit, the first initial two things is like you require a JDK to be installed. Now you can download the JDK 8 over here from this Oracle website, and this is something which you can download for the Windows or whatever platform you have. You can pretty much install it for whatever platform is there. So for Windows platform, you can download for 32-bit and 64-bit both option over here. And once it's installed, so you should be able to use the Eclipse latest tool. Now all you need to do is that you need to go to eclipse.org, and there you can download the latest version of the Eclipse. Now these two main things which you require, because Eclipse will be required for creating the JUnit test cases, and of course a kind of IDE where you can run some test cases, JUnit test cases and all. And then Oracle is something which is required as a runtime for running the JDK also, and the JUnit test cases also, and Eclipse here. So that's a prerequisite which we got over here in this one. So I have already got these two things installed into my system, and I have Eclipse there. So let's move on to the Eclipse and see that how it goes on there. But before that, you also require the JUnit jar files, because in order to have a particular JUnit framework loaded up, we require some particular files, jar files over here in this case. So I can just search for JUnit 4 over here, and when you search for JUnit 4, so what happens, like this particular page will help you or give you all the details about the JUnit 4. Now you can go for the version notes of the different versions, but if you want to download, all you need to do is like you can say like download and install, and the moment you go there, so it will give you the details. Now there are two jar files which is required. JUnit.jar file is required over here. hamcrest-co.jar file, these two jar files are required here if you want to download it into the test class path. If you feel that you want to use a Maven based project, then in that case you have to specifically go for this dependency in the POM file, and according to that, that particular version will be downloaded and will be referred over there. So these are the ways that how you can get the particular softwares, the required things into the place. So I'm going to put up these jar files into a location so that I should be able to get the particular details stored, and I can refer to them into my Eclipse. So I'm going to download this one here from the Maven Central. So I'm going to download this jar file, and then I'm going to go back Hemcrest-core. So that also I want to download. Download jar. So these two jar files I have downloaded, and I will be referring these ones into my project because these are the ones which is being required into my project as such. So let's go back to the Eclipse, and let's place these jar files into a location so that into my class path I can refer the complete folder with all these two jar files inside that. So let's go ahead with that. So let's create a particular new project over here. So we'll go for new Java project, and here I can give it like a simple one. A simple project name I can provide here, and JDK I'm using like 1.8, so that's the JDK version which I have utilized over here, and then finish. So this is the project which I have got like in the source directory. Now I'm going to create a simple file over here, a new class file over here. So I'll create it like JUnit class. So I'm going to create a class over here in this one, and of course I need to have a particular void main also over here in this specific class over here, because this is the initial class I'm trying to create over here in this one. I can create a custom particular methods also over here, but let's see like if we can execute or we can run some particular functions as such over here. Now I'm going to declare a function over here, public void JUnit method. So I'm just going to create a method over here. I'm just going to run a particular print statement over here. Executing JUnit test cases. Right now this is a kind of a method which is there, which of course I can run into my public void main, and this function will be executed, will be called upon over here. Now the thing is that right now since it's just a normal function, but the moment I convert it, like I have a @test mentioned over here, so what will happen, like this will be converted into the form of a test cases. Now of course, like right now there is no imports which is available there as part of this one, so you can see that the time I have added this annotation @test, I will be able to see like yes, add JUnit 4 library to the build path is something which is coming up over here, or it's saying like add JUnit 5. So whatever the library you feel that you want to add, you can do that, and that particular library will be added up over here. Now let's go for the JUnit 4 library here. The moment I do that, what will happen, you will see some changes. First you will see the changes in the top saying that import org.junit.test. That's a first import, and second import will be like JUnit 4. You will see like these two jar files is automatically being picked up by the Eclipse. Now even if you don't download these jar files, this is the main benefit of the Eclipse, that these are already a part of the plugins. You can see their paths, that these are already installed in the.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
Plugins directory. So the moment you use these particular methods that you want to use the JUnit, these will be automatically imported over here into your system. Now you can just simply call this method into the main void main, and then the specific method will be executed as a form of test cases. So this is the mechanism that how you will be setting up the project. Initially you got the imports, you got the particular annotations configured, and with that the specific jar files will be automatically being added up into your class path. Whatever the jar files we added up, we downloaded previously, we can also have that added up into the custom class path. We can modify this build path of JUnit 4 which is coming up automatically. We can just simply say right click build path and configure. So this JUnit 4 we can actually import, we can remove it from our system, and we can add our external jar files also into the build path or the class path over here. So that depends upon you, that how you want to perform the customizations around that part. But yes, the particular main benefit of using the Eclipse is that it's already having the JUnit plugin installed. Both 4 and 5 version is installed. Whatever version you feel that you want to include, it will be included, and the plugins are already installed, so you don't even have to download the jar files manually. So that's how you will be able to do a very basic initial setup of JUnit, and how a basic project can be created over here in case of JUnit. In the upcoming demos, we'll see like how we can execute these particular test cases, and we'll get the response. We'll come to that point. So let's go back to the main content. Right, so that was the JUnit installation demo which we saw, and we saw like how we can put up or load the jar files related to JUnit into a class path, and we can resolve the basic features about the JUnit, about the test cases. Now let's talk about some of the certain features of the JUnit here. Now there are a lot of features which we get primary with the JUnit. Let's discuss about that one by one. So the very first feature about JUnit is that it's an open source network. Now it's something which is available as an open source to you. We have also seen the installation, so you don't have to really go for any kind of license or something like that. So you can do any number of test cases with this particular tool and this specific automation tool here. You can automate it into Jenkins. Nowhere you require any kind of license around this. So these can be easily integrated. These are already a part of most of the latest Eclipse installation, so you don't even have to configure these manually because it's already a part of your system. Right. Second is that it provides annotations. Now main annotation we have already seen in the previous case, that when we converted a normal function or a normal method into the test method by using an annotation called @test, so it provides a mechanism to identify that which particular method is a test method and which method is a normal method according to our classes. So these annotations really help us to identify the methods also, and it provides us the flexibility that these particular methods are not the normal methods we need to execute. You need to run it in the form of test cases. So that identification is something we will be able to do with the help of these annotations here. Also it provides the assertions to identify like what exactly the results are there, because definitely when we are running the test cases, JUnit test cases, we need to assert that what should be the value. So using the assert we can assertions, we can actually compare that, okay, this method is giving this value. Suppose there is an addition method which is available there, which is giving like a plus b is equal to c. So c is like 5 plus 15 is 20. So with the help of assert, I'm saying like whatever the response I'm going to get from the function when I give the values a and b as 5 and 15, so that should be 20 value. So in the assert I can hard code like, okay, this is the value, this is the response which I should be getting, and once the function is executed I should be able to get this particular output as in 20 over here. So that comparison when you do, you will be able to understand easily that yes, when we are doing the assert, I'm getting the proper response, I'm getting the proper output over here. So assertion is something which is very important to compare the things, to compare the inputs which we are getting from the application source code. Next, it provides the test runner. So we can basically run the test runners over here to execute the test cases. So you can configure this within the pipelines. You can configure it with Eclipse and various automations during the build automations. Also, you can configure it. So that flexibility you will be able to get with these test runners here. And it also allows you to provide a better feedback channel, because it acts like a very good feedback provider, because the moment you are done with the development, you will be able to get an instant feedback. So the overall quality of the code is going to be increased in this case, and that's definitely helpful for you, because with this approach, with this JUnit framework, you will be able to get a quite faster and a perfect code writing tool or a quality tool which is available there. So definitely the overall quality of the code is going to improve with the help of this JUnit framework. And it provides the automations also, because these JUnit test cases are having the flexibility that you can configure it within the pipelines. You can automate it with the help of this framework, that you can completely help, or you can have a complete automated workflow with the help of this particular framework, and it provides you an instant feedback. The feedback channel is quite instant in case of this JUnit. Now let's talk about the JUnit annotations. We have already seen like the benefit of the annotation is to define or to provide the metadata about the methods to the different ones. So annotations also refer to the syntactical metadata added to the Java source code. So having a particular better feasibility and identification is also quite easy. So also the overall structure of the source code can be done in a better way, and the readability is also good when we talk about the annotations here. The biggest main difference between the JUnit and the JUnit 3 was the introduction of the JUnit annotations. So earlier, before JUnit 3, we were not able to identify like if this is in kind of a test method or this is a kind of a source method over here. So that identifications is quite easy after the involvement or the introduction of the JUnit 4 framework over here. Also, like this is something which is really helpful to us to see like how exactly we can overall read the overall source code, because you have so many source code there present to your project. So annotation should be able to help you to identify that these are the main portions, with these are the components which is part of the unit test cases, not the actual source code. So at the rate test is something which is going to tell us that the specific method with the public void declaration can be run or can be executed as a test cases. This is not a simple method. This is not an application source code method. This is a test method over here. Now at the rate before is something which is used to run some statement before each and every test cases executes. Maybe having some additional or initial connectivity is something you can do with the help of at the rate before. At the rate after is something which you can do after the execution of the test cases, like some statements which you want to execute after the test cases. So that's something you can do, or you can go with the help of at the rate after. And at the rate ignores is something which you can configure if you feel like during the test execution you feel to ignore some statement. So that's where you can use the at the rate ignores there. So at the rate ignores, at the rate after, at the rate before, and at the rate test. These are the four annotations which is being used most of the time into your JUnit test cases. Right, let's talk about some bit more. Now at the rate before is something which is being used to execute the classes, some statement before even any kind of test class executes. So not only before executing any method, this is something before even loading up any kind of test classes. So before at the rate before class is being used. Similarly, at the rate after will be there to execute it after all the test classes. And if we have a timeout configured, so what we'll have that we will be able to set up a timeout while executing the test cases. So timeout value can be configured over here. And then if you feel like if you want to handle some exceptions during the test execution, so that's where we can use this custom annotations over here to have the exceptions handled or configured over here in this one. So these are some of the very important annotations which is available there on the JUnit perspective. Now let's talk about some another demo on JUnit testing in the Java, like how we can pretty much configure the test cases in JUnit for a programming language called Java, and how we can get along or get execute those things. So now we are going to see like how exactly we can go for the execution of some Java files onto a command line, and how we can using the command line run some execution of the test cases. Typically we do it from the Eclipse, but from the command line also we are going to see like how exactly we are performing the setup and the executions over here. Now what we really need to do is like we need to see like how we can proceed further with the execution. So I'm going to open this particular Java file over here, so to get a better understanding here. So I'm going to use the org.unit JUnit class over here in this case. So we are having like couple of imports. These are the standard imports, so you can do like org.unit JUnit.star also if you don't want to go for the specific imports here. Now here we are going to create a test unit as a sample class, and in this one we got the void main over here, which is the main portion of any kind of class here. The only thing which we got over here is that we have created a test method over here called test print message. So we are assigning a value called message a variable over here as in Simplilearn. Now what happens, like we will be able to do the assert equals over here, that if the value of message is like Simplilearn, So it will be able to help us with the proper output, and there will be no errors as such over here. So everything will be smooth, and that's what we are trying to execute over here in this case. And we are running into the null void, that these are the test cases we want to run or we want to execute over here. Now all we need to do is we need to compile this one. We really need to compile this test cases over here, this file, and then we have to run that one. So for that, let me open the command prompt. So now in this case, we will be using the javac command prompt here, and we will be copying the JUnit into the class path, so that we will not be able to get any kind of class not found issues over here. So test unit JUnit.java we are going to run. So if there is no exceptions as such, we will be able to get no errors here. Now I'm going to run the particular class file with the help of Java command, because Java says to convert the .java file to the .class file, the compile format, and then in order to run the .class file, we have to go for the Java command line here. Now this means that there is no issues as such with the test cases, and everything is working fine as expected over here in this one. So the assert equals is going to help you to identify that if the execution is proper, and let's say like if we put up some content, like some different content over here in this assert equals. So I'm going to again execute this one, so that I will be able to see like if what will happen, that if this message value and this value does not matches. Like in normal situations, it will say like, okay, the particular output is going up, and there is no errors as such, right? So let's see like what exactly it will happen, that if we go for the executions, like if we save this file in such a way that we are providing some wrong inputs, and what will happen to our assert equal over here. So I'm going to again compile the file here. So again a new class file will be available, and this time I'm going to execute this class file again over here in this case. And the moment you did it, the assert will give you the comparison over here, saying that there is a failure of the comparison. Why there is a failure of the comparison? Because according to the code base, it was expecting the value called Simplilearn, but it simply got the value called Simplilearn 1.2, which means that your test cases over here got failed down. So this is the real way that how you will be providing the comparison, like what you should be putting up to the application and what kind of response you should be getting in return of that. So that's where you will be able to provide a proper and a complete comparison here, which will help you to understand that what exactly output you're going to get over here. And that's where the output will be completely available to you, and you will be able to get a proper output as such here. Right, so this is the way that how the comparison will be performed, and how you will be able to see like these two comparisons being done here as such. So this is the way that how you're going to run the test cases in the form of the from the command line here. So let's go back to the main document. Right, now the next one which we got over here is the JUnit test cases using the Eclipse, because from the command line we saw like using the command line we can do, but we got like so many test cases which is available there, so it's not easy for us to run those one by one. So we will be doing it through the Eclipse, so that we can see like how the execution can be really done, and we can get a hold of those particular components. So let's go back to the Eclipse, and this time we are going to run the test cases in the Eclipse here. Now let's create a new project again here. JUnit project, right, and finish. So a new JUnit project will be created. Now in this one you can see like there is no executables libraries for the JUnit, but you can include it now also, but I'm going to do it later on. So I go for the JUnit project class. Right, so this is a kind of a test class here, so I'm not going to put the null or the public void main over here in this one. So finish. Now in this case what I'm going to do is like I'm going to replace this content over here, so with this particular ones, and going to have some basic code base added up over here. So I'm going to import some particular JUnit libraries over here. So over here like org.junit, I'm going to import these ones, and I got like this class over here, JUnit project. So I just have to rename it a little bit so that it can be the name of the actual class name here. So that's fine. So everything is fine, but the only thing is that we are getting some failures and problems over here because it's not able to identify these specific JUnit related executables like the functions and the methods. For this one, again, the previous case, you have to do the particular addition of the library to the build path so that you will be able to have these automatically resolved over here in this one, right? So you can see now that JUnit 4 started reflecting over here in this case, and you did not got any kind of errors now over here in this one. So you can simply save this, and now you are good to go for running the executions over here. So you can simply say right click over here, run as, and JUnit test. And when you do that, on the left hand side, you will be able to get a little bit different viewpoint over here, which says yes, test underscore JUnit is something which is executed perfectly fine. If for any reason, let's say I change the value of string 1 here as in string 1, just an typo error I'm trying to do here so that I can show you that how the test cases really fails. So assert equals is basically helping you to find out that if the comparison between the two attributes is correct, that means that the inputs which we are putting up and whatever the output we are getting, it's both the same here. When you do that, you will say there is a failure over here to the test cases. Now I'm seeing the failure trace over here, so I'll just move this one to the console view. So it says it should be string, but I got string 1 over here, which is causing the problem here. Because of the typo error which I did, the whole execution of the test cases got failed. So I'm just going to revert my changes back here and again run the test cases. It will all be okay right now again over here. So that's the main reason that how the execution really happens, and the overall mechanism and the system can be implemented over here in this case. So that's how we basically go on and we execute some JUnit test cases here. So this is the basic demos which we did about the JUnit and how exactly it goes for the implementation of the unit test cases here. So that's it for this topic. Thanks everyone.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.